When you look at the big picture, the really huge global challenges we're facing, we're talking climate instability, overhauling our energy systems, the whole thing.
It's a massive puzzle.
It is. And when you think about who's trying to solve it with, say, sustainable transport and energy production,
Yeah.
one name just dominates that conversation: Tesla.
That's right. And the scale of what they're attempting is, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, your typical car company, they focus on making a better car. Tesla's out there trying to pivot the entire global energy system at the same time.
Absolutely. So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're digging into the shared source material to really analyze Tesla's strategy.
Specifically how they use things like shared value and ecosystem innovation.
Exactly, to build this really unique competitive edge in, well, a massive industry.
And it's important to understand, this isn't your standard corporate social responsibility, the kind of doing good stuff that's just tacked on. This is a pure Silicon Valley approach. It's about challenging every single industry norm by making sustainability the absolute core of the business itself.
Okay, so before we get into Tesla, let's set the stage a bit. Just how big is the industry they decided to challenge?
It's colossal. I mean, the sources put the global turnover at 1.9 trillion euro.
Wow.
Yeah. To put that in perspective, if the car industry were a country, it'd be the 6th largest economy in the world. That's the system they're trying to rewire.
And for, what, a century? The assumption in that industry was just constant growth, but the source material points to this idea of peak car. What is the data telling us there?
Well, there's some really solid evidence of a huge shift, at least in established markets. Since about 2007, car usage in Europe and the US has actually been going down.
So people are driving less?
Driving less, using ride-sharing more. Now, to be clear, global sales are still growing, a lot of that driven by emerging markets, especially China.
China's a huge piece of that pie.
Over a quarter of total sales. But yeah, the attitudes in places like New York or Berlin, they're definitely changing.
And that brings us to this huge consumer group, Gen Y, born between 77 and 94. They want technology, for sure, but they're also really sensitive to value.
Very sensitive. And they don't just look at the sticker price, they're thinking about the lower total cost of ownership. So maintenance, insurance, fuel, all of it.
And that way of thinking led to a pretty surprising finding about why people were buying EVs, right?
It did. I think this was the most surprising data point. The main reason people were adopting alternative powertrains wasn't pure environmentalism.
So it wasn't just to save the planet.
That's a huge plus, but no. Overwhelmingly, the driver was the desire for cost savings. The economic argument just has to work first.
That's a really profound insight. It means you don't win this revolution with morality campaigns. You win it by offering a cheaper, better ride.
Exactly. And that cost equation is so important when you factor in what the sources call the external cost burden.
The hidden costs.
The costs society pays that you don't see at the pump. We're talking health damage from pollution, congestion, land use.
And do we have a number on that? What's the financial impact?
The estimates for Europe alone are somewhere between 2,400 and 4,000 euro per car, per year.
Per year? That's a financial time bomb.
It is. So the insight is Tesla isn't just selling a car, they're selling the elimination of $4,000 in hidden societal costs. That's how they frame the opportunity.
Okay, so if the research says consumers care most about cost savings, how on earth did Tesla start with the Roadster? A $100,000 sports car.
It seems counterintuitive, but it was a very deliberate, tiered plan. They had to start at the high end.
Where people would pay a premium.
It's exactly, for the novelty, for the performance. Then they could use that cash flow to just aggressively fund R&D.
To drive down the costs and get to the mass market.
As fast as possible.
But that high-end strategy, it was really rocky at the start, right? I remember the sources mentioning huge losses on the Roadster.
Oh, huge is an understatement. At one point, they were losing $50,000 on every single car they sold.
Wow. How do you even sustain that?
Well, you can't. That's why Elon Musk had to personally step in, take over engineering, and just slash costs, redesign entire systems. It shows this almost insane long-term commitment.
It definitely shows they weren't building for a quarterly profit report.
Yeah.
So let's talk competitive advantage. They had this Silicon Valley approach to innovation.
It's agile, it's constant, and it's very vertical. The cars themselves have unique tech, like a lightweight aluminum chassis, super low drag, regenerative braking.
But the real secret sauce was the software, right?
Absolutely. Their in-house software development. They treat the car like a computer on wheels that gets constant updates. Traditional automakers in Detroit or Germany really struggled to copy that at first.
And they completely redefined the value chain by just skipping dealerships altogether.
A brilliant move. They use mall showrooms and online sales. It gives them complete control over that customer experience. No middleman.
Which has paid off in brand loyalty. I saw that satisfaction score.
A stunning 99 out of 100 owner satisfaction score from those early buyers.
Okay, but is that a fair metric? I mean, are we just measuring the happiness of early adopters who were already all in on the idea?
That's a fair question. Early data can be skewed, but the sources do confirm that deep connection is also fueled by the brand's link to sustainability and, of course, the charismatic leadership of Elon Musk. He is the face of the company.
We do need to inject a bit of financial reality here for you listening. Revenues were rising fast. Sure, they hit $3.2 billion in 2014, but the company was also posting huge net losses.
Right, like $294 million in 2014 alone.
So what does that tell us?
It tells us they're playing the long game, they're sacrificing profit now for what they hope will be market dominance later. They're making these massive long-term investments like the Gigafactory.
And they were highly leveraged.
Very, a 73.18% debt to total capital ratio.
So for the listener, what does a leverage ratio like that say about their risk tolerance?
It signals a very high risk, but also high conviction strategy. They're borrowing heavily against the future, betting that all these investments in tech and infrastructure will pay off exponentially once they hit scale. They're all in.
And that brings us to this core idea of shared value. Let's break that down. What is Michael Porter's CSV in simple terms?
To put it simply, shared value means the product itself has to solve a major social or environmental problem for the business to be profitable. The economic return is the social solution. It's not charity, it's the core strategy.
So sustainability is completely integral to the business. And they do this by reconceiving markets, connecting Tesla, the car company, with SolarCity for energy and SpaceX for, well, long-term tech.
That three-company approach creates this incredible competitive moat. And they're redefining the value chain, not just by cutting out dealers, but with their approach to IP.
Right. Musk famously released their patents. That sounds like corporate suicide. Why give away your advantage?
Because what good is the best electric car if there's nowhere to charge it?
A very good point.
If Tesla hoards all the IP, the EV market stays this tiny little niche, and they ultimately fail. By releasing the patents, they speed up the development of the entire ecosystem their product needs to succeed.
That is a way of thinking that just separates them from almost everyone else.
Yeah.
But, the challenges to getting mass EV adoption have always been huge. The sources list 6 big ones.
Yeah, and it's a roadblock that needs a systemic solution, not just a better battery. You've got 1, the high purchase price, 2, limited driving range.
Range anxiety.
Yep. 3, not enough charging infrastructure. 4, worries about the battery's resale value. 5, the fact that limited range also limits your fuel savings. And then 6, the big one, can the electric grid even handle millions of EVs?
That is a staggering list. You have to solve all of them at once. So how does Tesla's ecosystem strategy attack them?
They went after infrastructure first. They tackled charging and range anxiety with the supercharger network. By 2015, they already had over 2,000 chargers in 400 stations globally.
And they're fast.
Super fast and free, 50% charge in about 20 minutes. That immediately kills range anxiety and makes the cheaper fuel cost way more useful. So, boom, 2 problems addressed right there.
And to hit the price problem, which is mostly about battery costs, they built the Gigafactory.
Correct. The scale of that was revolutionary. The whole goal was to cut battery costs by 30%, which was the key to unlocking the $30,000 Model 3 for the mass market.
And then finally, they took on the biggest long-term problem, the grid. That's where Powerwall comes in.
The Powerwall from Tesla Energy is the final piece of this architectural puzzle. It lets people and businesses store their own energy, especially solar power from SolarCity.
So you're less reliant on the central grid.
Exactly. And it helps shift the whole energy source toward renewables. This is why the sources say Tesla isn't just a car company, it's an energy innovation company. They had to build the infrastructure because nobody else was going to.
So they cleverly used their loyal high-income customers, the Roadster and Model S owners, to fund the massive investment in this whole new energy system. It's kind of like how Apple used the iPod to build the foundation for the iPhone.
It's a great analogy, but this whole integrated strategy, brilliant as it is, comes with some major risks, especially as they try to scale up.
The sources bring up a really strong counterargument, the high overhead problem. What does that mean for them moving into the mass market?
It means that when you start at the high end, you build up these expensive structures. White glove service, high-touch showrooms, expensive staff.
And that's hard to scale down.
It's exceptionally difficult to go from that to a $30,000 mass market car without a huge, painful restructuring is a massive challenge. You have to fight the DNA of your own initial success.
And as Tesla leaves its niche, the whole competitive landscape just changes completely.
Totally. They're no longer just competing on who has the best battery. Suddenly they're competing head-to-head on resources where the incumbents have a century-long head start.
Things like cash reserves, supply chains, distribution networks.
Exactly. GM, Ford, Toyota. They have deep advantages there. Tesla avoided that fight early on by creating its own niche. But every new sale depends less on the novelty and more on those traditional things where the big guys lead.
So really, the entire strategy is an architectural bet.
That's the perfect way to put it. They are betting that by reconfiguring the entire system around the car charging, energy, sales, they create a value proposition so superior that it outweighs the incumbent scale. But it's a huge financial risk to get there.
So let's wrap this up. What's the core takeaway for you, the listener, trying to make sense of all this?
I think the key takeaway is that Tesla isn't just winning because they make cool, fast cars. They're winning because they used an integrated ecosystem strategy driven by this shared value idea to solve the fundamental system-level problems that held back electric cars for decades.
They didn't just enter a market, they built their own.
They built their own. It's a fascinating deep dive into how you can redefine an industry by focusing on the whole system, not just the product.
It really is.
And maybe we could end with a provocative thought for you to chew on. The human resources analysis in the source material highlights Elon Musk's charisma and vision as a core, intangible asset. He is the irreplaceable leader of this ecosystem.
So the question is,
What happens to that competitive advantage if that leader isn't at the helm anymore, especially as the company is fighting tooth and nail to finally reach mass market scale and, sustain profitability against these huge, well-capitalized rivals?
in innovation so reliant on one person's constant force, it makes you wonder if that momentum is now baked into the company's structure or if it still needs that single driving personality. A great question to end on. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thanks for listening.
And we encourage you to subscribe for more in-depth knowledge delivered quickly.